Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into The Spread, NESN.com's football picks podcast. I am NESN.com's Mike Cole, joined, as always, by my friends Ricky Doyle and Andre Kachaturian. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Excellent. How are you, Mike?
I'm well.
I'm very well. Very well.
Wow, good.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
Got a little trip coming up this week, so I'm excited.
Yeah, no, that's nice. Good to. We're also happy.
So let's breeze through this. Let's hurry up with this, okay?
I'm jealous. I'm very jealous. I'm jealous anytime anybody's going to Nashville. We might actually. I don't know if we'll get into this. The Patriots playing in. I don't think any of us have this game.
I don't think the odds are out for that on odds.
That's true. That's going to be. That was almost my lock of the week. I think it would have been if there was a line. That's going to be a Patriots home game because everybody and their brother literally is going to that game. My brother is going to that game.
Oh, it's 6.5 points.
Okay, there you go. So I'm probably taking the Patriots in that one. Spoiler alert. But like I said, going to be a big New England presence down there. That should be an interesting game at the very least. A lot of Patriots connections there. Anyway, this is The Spread, as mentioned. We're into Week 10. As we do every week, we will go through the 3 best games of the week. That's a very, very relative term this week because this week's slate stinks. Week 9 was awesome. Week 10, not so much. Speaking of Week 9, why don't we get into our records from last?
Wow, we've been doing great this year, Mike.
We're picking against the spread. I should probably mention.
That is important because it's hard to pick against.
Yeah.
Everybody's doing it. Apparently, Las Vegas had record losses.
I'm going to get into that after we do our records. So
I went 9-4, back-to-back weeks of strong picking. Mike 8-5, Ricky 7-6. Overall records, I'm leading the way with 71 wins, 5 games better than Ricky with 66 wins, and Mike, you have 63 wins. You may be in last, Mike, but guess what? Last year, all of us were doing much worse. Last year, the best record was at this time, going into Week 10, was 61, 63, and 4. Wow. We were all under 500. This year, we're just doing great.
So, and this is something I want to get into before we get to our picks, because like I said, the games this week suck. They're just terrible.
I can't remember a week this bad.
No.
Like, for as long as we've been doing this.
Yeah, this is, I mean, I feel like we say that a lot. We are pretty down on a lot.
Me and Andre had a conversation with a guy last night, and we pointed out, like, the best games of this week, and he didn't believe us. Like, he had to pull out his phone, and he was like, no, there's got to be better games than that. Sure,
and then he's like, yeah, you guys are right.
Yeah.
Best game of the week is Saints-Bengals.
But they're
told him to go apple picking.
Yeah, this would be the week to do it. Although I think apple picking weather is gone. I think we're gone.
Yeah.
What do you do in early November? I don't like apple picking. You can do that at the grocery store.
Smash pumpkins.
I was gonna say get ready for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Get some reps in. Maybe
turkey hunting.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want.
Cook up some stuffing. Get ready. Prepare yourself. Kind of do a couple walkthroughs. I don't know. You want to
mow the lawn?
Mow the lawn. I've
great lawn weekend.
Crazy, dude. The last couple weeks have been terrible. It's been raining a ton. We were just talking about that. I mowed my lawn in the rain the other day. I was like, I don't care. I
gotta wear a poncho?
No, I didn't. It's just it's the easiest way to get rid of the leaves. So
that's
another thing.
In the rain. By the time you're done, it's already growing again. The photosynthesis.
It's not just for the lawn. It's get the leaves. It's the leaves. So that's a big thing. You want to talk about things to do this week? Go rake your leaves. There's a ton of them out there. Or gamble on the NFL. I mean, that's the thing. The games don't have to be good to make money, and that was the case last week, or the games were good and people still made a ton of money last week. This is from ESPN, citing Nevada industry sources, so the bookmakers basically, people who work at the sports books. Vegas, or all of Nevada sports books, lost in the range of $7 to $10 million overall just on Sunday. This goes on the list of top 10 worst Sundays for us, MGM Vice President Jay Rude told David Payne Purdom. The Caesars Sportsbook manager also told Purdom, today's outcomes have been less than ideal. I don't know exactly where it'll fall on our all-time list, but it's one of the worst NFL Sundays that I can remember. According to RJ Bell, 9 most popular picks among the public last week went 9-0. So it was a bloodbath for Vegas. Finally, they're taking it on the chin. I saw in a story that I think our own Fred Nutter passed along to us. They had some reactions to some of those tweets, and one person made a great point about Caesar, saying, well, you charge $13 for a beer, and you don't give away drink tickets. It's nice to see Vegas kind of take one on the chin every once in a while. So score one for the bettors.
They'll make it up this week.
And that's the thing. And I think that's something you kind of have to keep an eye on, too, is like maybe there's some wonky lines in here this week to kind of get back at it. I also thought this was interesting. Five underdogs, 5 teams that closed as underdogs all won. this past week. Tennessee, New Orleans, Atlanta, San Francisco, and Pittsburgh all closed as underdogs. They all won straight up by an average of 17.2 points. It's insane. A lot of that is San Francisco over the Oakland, but still, those teams blew doors this week. So Vegas is going to be looking to get back at us this week. We're ready for the challenge. Like we said, we'll try to pick the 3 best games of the week. There aren't 3 good games, but we'll do our best. That even includes starting with Thursday night. We never do the Thursday night game, because by the time we get this video up, by the time our picks go up, that Thursday night game is 12 hours away, but we don't care. That's how bad the games are this week. We're going to start there. Lines, as always, and a ton of our trends and info presented to us by OddsShark. Quick shout out, as always, to OddsShark. Also, perpetual thank you to OddsShark for the Super Contest in which Ricky and I went 4-1 last week. So that's
Very
just
good.
Roundabout way of getting that in there. We're charging up the standings, so we're happy about that. Thursday night, Carolina Panthers head to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers in a matchup of 2 of the hottest teams in the league. Carolina's won 3 straight. Steelers won 4 straight. Steelers coming off a nice divisional win against Baltimore. They are 4-point favorites on Thursday night at Heinz Field. Ricky, who are you on with this one?
All right. So the Panthers, is there a more weird team to evaluate on a year-to-year basis? So we were talking about this last night. Like going into every year, I feel like I don't know whether they're going to go 5-11 or they're going to go 11-5. But I think we're getting to the point now we can acknowledge they're a pretty good football team. But I still like the Steelers in this one for a few reasons. It's I thought earlier in the year that whole Le'Veon Bell thing had a chance to really, I don't know, kind of dismantle this team. It was really just one of several locker room issues that they had going on. So it galvanized them a little bit.
Just done the opposite, right?
And they've looked good. They look good running the football. There's just several areas in which I think they hold an advantage in this. It comes down to third down efficiency. Red zone is another one. Panthers 31st in opponent red zone scoring percentage. Steelers 2nd in red zone scoring. So maybe that's a factor in this one. Steelers defending running backs, very good at defending running backs, allowing an NFL low 186 receiving yards to backs. Maybe that comes up big here when you're facing a guy like Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, they've been placing a lot of emphasis on him in that Carolina offense. So I just think that there's going to be a point in this game where the Steelers kind of slow down that rushing attack, slow down the running backs of Carolina, force Cam Newton to make throws. And for as good as he has been this year, I still worry a little bit about trusting him on the road in this game on Thursday night. So I like the Steelers to cover, especially with that number seems to be coming down a little bit from where it opened up. So if it's at, what was it say, 4 points? 4 points. Yeah, I like that. I like the Steelers by a touchdown.
It's interesting you mentioned that before you get in here. The Panthers thing, they're so tough to get a read on, and they're good this season. And I think maybe in spite of what some people might have thought, despite, and you kind of hit on this, the defensive issues at times.
It's not a
how
typical.
You'd expect it to be,
not
right.
a typical Panthers team.
And that's what I'm going to get at right now. Is I'm going to pick Carolina in this game because you look at the 2015 Panthers, the year Cam Newton won MVP. I remember at the time us three would be sitting in the newsroom talking about how undeserving Cam Newton was that year to win the MVP because how low his completion percentage was and how his defense was giving him such great field position. That year in 2015, they were 2nd in drive starts. They were 1st in takeaways. They were literally setting up Cam Newton for these great opportunities, and he was taking advantage of it, but I wouldn't say he was the MVP. This year, I think he's an MVP candidate. You talked about the Carolina defense isn't as good as it was a few years ago. They're still pretty decent. They're middle of the road in takeaways and average drive start. But Cam Newton, best completion percentage of his career, lowest interception percentage of his career, on pace for 30 passing touchdowns, which would be the 2nd highest in his career. And he's getting really good protection from the offensive line, which is why I'm going with the Panthers in this one. Steelers have a decent pass rush, but I think they're going to be able to protect Newton. He's on pace to only take 24 sacks this year, which will be the lowest of his career. And what's weird is he's also has the highest rush attempts per game this year than he ever has in his career. So he's running the ball more this year than he ever has in his career. And he's also throwing the ball more than he ever has in his career. This guy is the Panthers offense this year, and he's doing a great job. And in the last 3 games, 70%, 6 touchdowns, no picks, 115 passer rating. This guy's unbelievable this year. And you're giving me 4 points with the Panthers? I'll take that. I'll take Carolina.
Interesting to note, and actually this is, I got this from OddsShark Bet Online via OddsShark. This is something to keep in mind. Cam Newton currently 28-1 to win the MVP. He's got worse odds right now than Phil Rivers, Alvin Kamara, Carson Wentz, Jared Goff. I think that's like a lot of good value there if you're looking for a deep range play.
I'm going to go do that right now.
Nick Mullins, by the way, 100-1 to win MVP. So just so you guys know, we'll get into that a little bit later. I'm with Ricky here. I'm going to take the Steelers. Let me just pull up my stats and my notes like a big doofus. A lot of it comes down to the fact that this game is in Pittsburgh. So far this season, home teams on Thursday Night Football are 7-2. Just straight up.
Look, researching that. It doesn't matter.
You know, do you guys know the only 2 losses this year by home teams Thursday Night Football?
Opening night, right? Eagles?
Nope. Did they lose?
No, they won.
They won, yeah. So the only 2 losses were Giants and Cardinals.
Yeah.
Both of those teams are wretched. So it's not surprising that they lost at home. Carolina, they've been great at home. They've been good at home dating back to last season. 5-0 straight up. On the road this season, just 1-2. Much different team away from home. They're scoring 31.6 points per game at home. On the road, just 21 points. They've forced 13 turnovers in their 5 home games, just 2 in their 3 road games. So I like that a lot. And Ricky, I was on that same thing with you on the McCaffrey thing. He's played Pittsburgh. 3rd fewest rushing yards allowed, fewest receiving yards to running backs, as you mentioned. Also, this is something to keep in mind. Christian McCaffrey, this is insane, has played 96.5% of Carolina's offensive snaps this year. I don't know, that probably doesn't catch up to him this week, but if there's ever, Thursday night, maybe in terms of recovery, maybe he's just not quite the same player. Thursday night with a short rest after play. It's insane. 96.5%.
They weren't lying about his usage.
No.
Over the offseason, they were saying how much they were going to lean on him, and that was not a mirage.
So, and that's the thing, too. If you're looking at long-term, maybe futures odds or something, and you kind of want to maybe, look at like a team like Atlanta to make the playoffs, if you think Carolina might fade, those are 2 things that don't seem very sustainable. Christian McCaffrey playing 97% of the time, and Cam Newton, the volume that Andre mentioned, that seems like we talk about this every year, don't we? Like it's the Cam Newton penalty conversation because he's a guy who runs the ball so much, and now he's running the ball even more. Maybe there's some value in like Atlanta to make the playoffs if Carolina suffers some injuries. Speaking of injuries, the Panthers might be without Eric Reed. He's got a shoulder injury. Maybe and if he does play, he'll be banged up. That could be a huge loss for them, especially going up against that offense. They're already without Denoris Searcy for the entire season. So if they're banged up in the secondary, that's a tough matchup against Antonio Brown and the Steelers. So it's the best Thursday night game, I was going to say, of the season. It's probably not. We've got a lot of good Thursday night games.
If you're someone who buys into the Panthers and buys into the Steelers, 2 teams that are kind of volatile at this point in the season, it's a sneaky Super Bowl for you.
Yeah, right.
A couple of dark horses from each conference, which weird to call the Steelers a dark horse given where they usually are at the beginning of the season, but they faded a little bit, and now they're sneaking up on you. So
interesting stat that goes against everything I just said about the Panthers.
I love
Cam Newton Thursday nights in his career, 3-4 record, 53% completion percentage, 5 touchdowns, 8 picks, with a 64 passer rating. So
love it.
He hasn't played well on Thursdays.
You mentioned the Panthers on the road.
Yeah.
Just 3 first quarter points total for the Panthers in 3 road games this season, averaging 5.3 first half points per game in 3 road games, 30th in the NFL. If they fall behind early, which they've done several times this season, I mean, I look back to that sort of miracle comeback against the Eagles. They fell behind early in that last loss that they had to the Redskins, the most recent loss. I don't think that you can really compromise your offense by falling behind early in this game against the Steelers, or otherwise you're in some serious trouble.
Yep, I agree. I'm trying to find. I'm really just stalling here. I'll try to do it a little bit later. You can get like random Super Bowl futures matchup odds. I'd love to see.
I think this would be a sneaky good one. I bet you could get good value.
It's probably like 50-1.
Yeah,
something like that. So I'll try to find that at some point over the course of the show. Let's move on to Sunday. We're in the 1 o'clock hour, I believe. This game is decent enough. Whatever, it'll have to do. Maybe the game of the week. The New Orleans Saints go out on the road to take on the Cincinnati Bengals. Saints coming off a really impressive win against the Rams. That was a great game last week. I felt bad for those 2 teams, kind of being overshadowed by the Rodgers-Brady matchup that ended up not being as good of a game as that Saints-Rams game. So the Saints, a legitimate stake to claim as the best team in the NFL, go to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Saints laying 4.5 points on the road here. 79% of the public right now is on New Orleans. Total set at 54.5. Weather looks like not an issue. Low 40s and cloudy. Andre, where are you at on this one?
I'm going to take the Saints. I don't trust the Bengals in big situations. If it's prime time, playoff games, Andy Dalton, big situations, I don't like them. This is a big situation for them against one of the best teams in the league. They're 27th in yards per play differential. And the Bengals, I don't trust them in big situations. Their losses this year against the Panthers, Steelers, and Chiefs. 3 really good NFL teams. Average defeats, 17 points in those games. They're not good against good teams. And, you know, I always talk about the Saints' rush defense, still the best in the league, 3.4 yards allowed per carry. In the 3 losses, the Bengals rushed for fewer than 70 yards in those 3 games. So they're not going to be able to run the ball. Dalton's going to have to throw the ball a ton, and that's never good.
The only thing that concerns me from picking the Saints is whether this is a trap game.
That's what I had.
Coming off of
definitely a trap game.
You know, coming off that win against the Rams, maybe you're looking ahead to
not only that,
you got the Eagles next week, I believe.
Yeah, and had the Vikings the week before. Like, this is the one game in this stretch where it's like,
that scares me a little bit. That said,
Drew Brees isn't.
I'm still taking the Saints
Trap game.
because I just think there are so many things on the Bengals side that would give me, reason for pause before I pulled the trigger on taking them. Namely, just how bad that defense has looked. I mean, it's banged up, but they've allowed more than 480 yards in each of their last 3 games to the Bucs, Chiefs, and Steelers, who are number 2, 3, and 4 respectively in yards per game. This week, they got the Saints offense, number 7 yards per game, number 2 in points per game. Obviously, very efficient. We've seen how good they've been throughout the course of the season. I just think they're going to have a hard time slowing down New Orleans. And if it gets into a little bit of a track meet, the A.J. Green injury is going to come into play there. Not only are you losing your best playmaker, but I think there's an impact there on a guy like Tyler Boyd and the rest of the playmakers in that offense. So I don't know. It's just I find it hard to take the Bengals here. I mean, another one, not a good tackling team. I mean, we've seen this week after week. Bengals, terrible tackling team. You get the ball to Alvin Kamara in space. This, honestly, on paper, this looks like a blowout. Yeah. But again, the trap game is the one thing that it gives me a little reason for pause. But I'm still taking the Saints. 5 points, whatever.
Brees was like a young quarterback who could fall for a trap. Brees is not. That's not going to happen.
I'm taking the Bengals. I'm taking the points at home. Again, I just feel like this pick is partially because of the trap game. That was a big thing for me. Also, I'm also kind of playing the odds here. Like, the books are going to start getting things back here at some point. That 80% are on this. You know what I mean?
That's concerning.
So I'm fading. This is more fading the public than anything else. I'm not looking at.
I probably wouldn't touch this game if I had the choice. You know what I mean?
There's nothing that has necessarily a ton to do with the actual football being played in this game. It's really just about, like, I look at this and say, wow, 80% of people, the public, is the public really going to steamroll again next week? I don't know. Maybe there's something in here that we're all missing. New Orleans is a road favorite since 2013. They're just 10-7 straight up, 7-10 against the spread. I will say though, they're 5-1 against the spread in the last 6. Cincinnati though, this one's a big trends one for me. Cincinnati 8-1-1 against the spread in its last 10 as a home underdog, 4-0 against the spread in the last 4 games as home underdogs of 3.5 to 10 points. They've won 7 of 9 straight up in the last 9 games as a home dog. So. And then again, like you mentioned, the letdown spot. So all of that, I'll take the points, grin and bear it. That New Orleans defense, not great.
Rush defense is good though.
And I was looking at the Pro Football Focus stats for the secondary, and they were like 24th, I think. And Tampa Bay was 23rd, and we just saw last week Cincinnati tear up that Tampa Bay defense. So I think it could be a similar thing this week. Maybe it's a shootout. I'm not sitting here saying that Cincinnati's winning this game outright, but I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people think. So I'll take the points there.
Bengals on pace to the most yards ever.
It's crazy, yeah. I updated all my stats this morning.
It doesn't feel like that.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
At least up until the last few weeks, I still felt like they had the personnel on defense to be fairly decent.
They were miserable the first few weeks, and then they got Burfict back, and I think I remember just like putting it in my head like they're going to be better now that they have Burfict back, and they haven't been. So I think that's a big part of it too. But yeah, kind of under the radar. The offense has kind of really helped them, carried them. All right, late Sunday afternoon, Seattle Seahawks head to Los Angeles, take on the Rams. Rams, as we mentioned, coming off that loss last week. Seahawks also losing last week to the Chargers. Rams 10-point favorites heading home here. The total currently set at 51.5. 56% of the bets coming in on the Rams so far. Weather's not going to be an issue. These two teams met in week 5. The Rams won that game 33-31. Seattle led that late, 31-24. Todd Gurley only had 77 rush yards, 3.5 yards per carry, second lowest this season. He scored 3 touchdowns that day, though. A close competitive game. That the first time around, that game was in Seattle. This time in Los Angeles, the Rams laying 10 points. Ricky, where are you at on this?
Yeah, Gurley 7 touchdowns in those last 2 games against the Seahawks.
Yeah.
It's wild. You would just mention the problems in pass coverage that the Rams have had. I mean, the Saints have had. Rams have had some problems too. If there's one area that's maybe a weakness on that team, it is their pass defense. We saw it last week.
Run defense isn't much better either.
Yeah, I mean,
They have a lot of injuries in that pass defense.
There may be some flaws that cropping up here.
Once they get
as the season
to
progresses.
lead back, that's really hurt them. Sorry.
Yeah, no, they miss him incredibly, especially with Marcus Peters playing the way that he has. He's not right. I mean, he's hobbled, he's banged up. It's evident in his performance, but I don't know. So this is, I like the Seahawks getting points here. I think that they can do enough offensively to keep this close. Look at the Rams. They've allowed more passes of 40 yards or more, 11, than any team in the NFL. The Seahawks have 8 such plays. So maybe they get a couple big plays here or there. This could even just be a mere backdoor cover. I mean, maybe the Rams lead and the Seahawks are trying to chip away late, in which case they end up covering. I don't know. I just think this is I like the Seahawks in the spot as the underdog. Russell Wilson, this is the biggest underdog he's ever been in his career. They're 3-0 against the spread in situations in which they've been underdogs of 7.5 points or more since his rookie year in 2012. The Seahawks, I don't think they're going to beat themselves. Third in turnover differential at +9. They don't give the football away. Tied for third in that regard. So I trust the Seahawks enough to keep this close. Although I do think ultimately the Rams win this game.
I think Seattle wins this game.
Wow.
Yeah, you talk about the turnover thing. Seattle, just 2 turnovers in the last 6 games. And if we're just talking against the spread, the Rams 1-5 against the spread over the last 6. They're just getting all these big spreads, and they're not covering them. And the Seahawks are a good team. I mean, I talked about last week how Russell Wilson's been getting better protection, and he's been playing good football because of that. He was sacked 4 times last week, but they were still able to keep the game within 10 points against the LA Chargers, who I think are the best team in football. And again, it's a huge spread. Rams 25th in rush defense, so I think Seattle, they haven't been able to run the ball well all year, but I think they'll be able to run enough and take away some of that pressure from Russell Wilson. He won't have to carry the team on his back. I think they absolutely win this game, especially the underdog factor you bring. Russell Wilson, 10-point underdog, that's in his head. He's like, I'm a 10-point underdog going into this game. Absolute hogwash. And Pete Carroll returning to the Coliseum. He's had a lot of success there as a football coach.
Yeah, as a football coach. Wow.
As opposed to what else?
Yeah.
Janitor.
Football player. I don't know how you did that as a player.
Absolute hogwash.
I'm taking Seattle as well. I apologize if I repeat anything because I was looking out something. Seahawks and bounce back spots. Have you guys mentioned that yet?
No.
Okay.
No.
So Pete Carroll Pete Carroll's
the football coach.
The football coach Pete Carroll.
Wait, did I accidentally call him Paul Carroll too? I might have called him Paul Carroll, who used to work at Nestle with us. But
all right.
I'm sure Paul Carroll's had a great time at the Coliseum as a football coach as well.
Pete Carroll, for as many flaws as he might have or whatever, he's pretty good when he's getting revenge spots. 6-3 against the spread in same season revenge games over his last 9 opportunities. It's a second crack at a team. Seattle's also 12-4-2 against the spread in his last 18 games following a loss, so I like that a lot. Ricky, as you mentioned, they've really taken care of the football. They're +9 turnovers last 6 weeks. Just 6 weeks alone. They're 4-2 in those games. I wonder, too, if the Rams are a little overrated because of the schedule. Did anyone mention this yet either?
No. You really weren't listening.
No, I was not at all. I would consider all 5 of these teams good. Okay, I'm going to run down these teams. New Orleans, good.
Yes.
Minnesota, good.
Yeah.
Chargers, good. Packers, okay, good offense. Seattle, decent, whatever. In those 5 games, the Rams have allowed 31.4 points per game. Against bad teams, I'm going to call these teams bad. Denver, Oakland, San Francisco, Arizona, they've allowed 10.5 points. So they can beat up on the bad teams. They have some issues with the good teams. Ricky, you mentioned the Marcus Peters thing. I wanted to look that up because that's it's bad when like me, I'm just sitting there half asleep on the couch on a Sunday afternoon, and I'm like, holy moly, Marcus Peters is getting torched.
I give a lot of credit to Michael Thomas. Like, I think he's one of the most underrated receivers in football.
Definitely.
But yeah, he's just something off there.
For the season, he's got a 45.6 grade according to Pro Football Focus. That's so much worse than it was last year. He's like 106th among cornerbacks, I think. He's got a 145.2 passer rating when targeted this season. Opposing quarterbacks do. Last week, Drew Brees had a 155.8 passer rating when targeting Marcus Peters. And then 2 times this season, quarterbacks playing against Peters have had perfect passer ratings. One of those times was Russell Wilson in week 5. I think they'll go after him and try to exploit that matchup. I think it comes down to a lot of it is Chris Carson. If he's ready to go, if he's healthy, it sounds like he's at least going to try to give it a go. Since they've kind of found that running game, it's really stabilized their offensive line.
I talked about.
So if he can't go, that's the only thing. Like the Rams. If Seattle falls back into we can't protect the quarterback, the Rams are going to win this game by a lot. But they've
fixed that issue for the most part.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with Carson, like establishing the run game. It's like an old, weird football cliche that's probably a little bit overrated. But I think if that kind of gives them a little bit of balance and makes life easier, then they're in a much better spot. If not, it could be an ugly game. But I'm putting blind faith in the fact that they'll be okay protecting the passers. So.
The Rams against those good teams that you mentioned too. That the last 3 home games they've beat. What I think we could all call quality opponents. Chargers, Vikings, Packers. They've won those games by an average of 7 points. So that's within the number here.
Yep.
The 10-point spread. So
cool.
They've won, but it's been close.
Definitely. All right, let's get into locks and upsets before we get out of here. Andre, why don't you start?
Okay, lock. I'm going with the Chargers of the Raiders. Chargers are 10-point favorites. And we talked about 10-point favorites in the last game. The Rams are 10-point favorites over the Seahawks. That means this is the reason why Vegas is losing so much money. They think the chance of the Raiders beating the Chargers is the same as the chance of the Seahawks beating the Rams. That's nonsense. The Raiders are one of the worst teams in football. And they just got rid of Bruce Irvin. What are they? They have the worst sack rate in the league. Chargers have to do a great job of protecting the quarterback. Have only allowed 12 sacks this year. Rivers doesn't have time to throw. He's going to shred apart this Oakland defense. LA has the best yards per play differential in football. Oakland number 31, and you're only giving me 10 points. Chargers continue to be I think they're the best team in football, but Vegas continues to undervalue them with these ridiculous lines, and that's why they're losing money. They need to respect the LA Chargers more.
All right.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's all about respect. Absolute hogwash. I'm taking the Falcons 5-point favorites over the Browns. I don't know how sustainable this winning streak is for Atlanta, given the problems on defense, but they've won 3 straight. They've established some balance on offense. Julio Jones finally getting a touchdown. Calvin Ridley's been a playmaker all year. Matt Ryan playing very well this year.
Yep.
And I just think the Browns don't do anything particularly well. I think we're seeing now there was that early season hype. They stayed in some games, even won a couple games, but we're seeing right now what this team's all about. Not very good. Just sloppy too on both sides. I don't know. 5 points. I understand this game's in Cleveland, but I like the idea of Atlanta doing enough offensively to win by at least a touchdown.
Cool. I'm going to take the Packers to bounce back, and I think there's a chance that they blow out the Dolphins. I don't know how good the Dolphins are. Like, what is the Dolphins' record?
We were originally going to talk about this.
5-4.
They're 5-4. Let me just look this
up. Dolphins do nothing for them.
Their point differential
put me right to sleep.
Despite being 1 game over 500, they've been outscored by 38 points this year. That being said, Green Bay has been outscored by 12 points this year. But I think this is a bad matchup for the Dolphins. They did not do a very good job of protecting the quarterback. They could not pass block. They could not run block last week against the Jets. Now they take on a Packers team that, for all of its flaws, has done a pretty good job up front this season, both in the run game, as long as it's not Cordell Patterson, and in terms of generating a pass rush. Mike Pettin's done a pretty nice job with them. He's got some familiarity with the Dolphins from his time in the AFC East. The Dolphins also, Laramie Tunsil, offensive lineman, banged up. Not sure if he's going to be able to go, so if they can't protect Brock Osweiler, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. It's also going to be 32 degrees outside in Green Bay. Yeah, with the Miami Dolphins team going to there. And it seems so hard. I feel like that's an overplayed thing, the weather. But at the same time, if you step back and think about going from Miami to Green Bay and trying to play a football game when you're so used, it was 85 and humid. It was the most disgusting day. and Miami. By the way, one thing I want to get off my chest. Why are we still doing this thing where the University of Miami plays Saturday night and then the Dolphins play Sunday afternoon? We can't figure that out yet?
Like, they do the same thing at the Coliseum. The USC
Yeah,
plays
that's true.
Saturday night, and then you see the Rams logo on top of the USC
But at least
logo on
the weather in LA is pretty predictable. It's always going to be nice. Like, they played in a goddamn monsoon on Saturday night. It looked like a slip and slide for that Miami game, and then you're playing an NFL game the next day. It's unacceptable. So the tundra will be frozen, though, on Sunday afternoon, so I'll take the Packers.
Yeah, the weather thing's weird. I feel like this initial inclination is to poo-poo it every now and then, but as a human being, I do a lot of bitching. We started the show off by bitching about the weather.
Yeah, that's true, exactly, yeah.
You know what I mean? We probably do that on a majority of our shows. So.
These guys are a little mentally tough.
I can understand why. Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. It's got to be worth something.
It sucks.
That doesn't look fun. All right, upsets.
Bucks.
Okay.
I really want to get my upset.
Okay.
I think the Redskins over the Bucks. I thought that's where you were going.
Go ahead. Yeah. No, good. No, I had nothing. I was getting into it.
Okay. Yeah.
I was probably going to start with
Bucks.
Ricky, but yeah.
I think Washington 3-point underdogs over the Bucks. Tampa's defense allows a ton of yards. Opposing quarterbacks complete 74% of their passes against Tampa Bay. Tampa's 26th in sacks. You're not going to get any pressure on Alex Smith. Washington +6 turnover differential over the last 4 games. Plus, they lost 3 starters for the rest of their season last game. Washington.
Yeah.
You know what? That's a bad thing long term, but I think short term it's going to galvanize them. Like, we got to play for Brandon Scherf. We got to play for our guys.
That's a lot.
And I think they're going to rally and win.
The Lions-Bears. Lions getting 7 points over the Bears.
Wow.
Bears coming off back-to-back wins against the Jets and Bills, but I think we could agree those teams among the NFL's most limited offensively, with the Buffalo just being historically bad.
So bad.
I know the Lions gave up 10 sacks last week.
That's not good.
Not good.
Khalil Mack back this week too, right?
Yeah, I don't know what we're getting from them.
Okay.
Yeah, a little hobbled. I mean, I love the Bears as much as the next guy, but I think the Lions, they played well when they were desperate earlier in the season after just looking terrible through the first couple weeks. Maybe there's some of that at play. Also, 9-1 straight up against the Bears since the beginning of 2013. So,
it's a lot of bad Bears teams, though.
True.
From 2013 to now.
I will take the Giants, I guess. You guys have taken all of the
well, it's the thing. It's limited options, garbage games.
I was the last one to pick. Not that I'm complaining. That's my fault for not getting my picks in. I'm taking the Giants as 3-point favorites on the road. Monday Night Football, the worst Monday Night Football game perhaps in the history of Monday Night Football. Giants 49ers. I'm taking the Giants to win that one outright as 3-point underdogs because I don't believe in Nick Mullins, and I don't care how good he looked on a Thursday night against the Oakland Raiders at home. Now you get a week of tape on him. The Giants coming off a bye of their own. I don't know, man. Whatever. Who cares? This is just a terrible game. And
Not only is it a terrible game, the ESPN production is just terrible.
It hasn't been good. We've talked about this here before, haven't we? Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it. I didn't watch a second of that game.
Yes.
Monday night, yeah.
Monday night, it was terrible.
So.
Yeah, it just added on to the background, basically.
Unwatchable team in football, I think. They're just so boring.
That matchup did nothing for me. Not just just trying to pick that too.
Yeah.
Titans, Cowboys.
I was just like my picks last week, which again you can read on SN.com/NFL. At some point Thursday, I was just like, I'll take Vrabel over Jason Garrett, I guess, because I don't know enough about either team.
I'll take points, I guess.
Yeah, that's Jason Garrett's a dead man walking.
He'll probably be the next Marvin Lewis. He'll just be every year. He'll finish 8-8 and come back.
We'll see. I think there's about to be a lot of coaching changes in the NFL. It's going to get interesting sooner than later. Maybe not in season, but it's going to be a weird off season.
Chicago Blackhawks fired Joel Quenneville.
Wild, huh? I just assumed that Joel Quenneville will never get fired. So, is that the first coach fired this year?
No, the Kings fired their coach.
Oh, that's right. I was going to say, imagine if you'd gotten Joel Quenneville at probably 30-1.
Probably would be in the field.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, who knows? Okay, well, that's our hockey talk.
What do you got for manager of the year?
We should have looked out.
Bob Melvin?
Yeah. I'm going with Bob Melvin, yeah.
Bob Melvin probably had a pretty...
Three-time manager of the year, Bob Melvin.
That's crazy. All right, let's get out of here. That's been The Spread. Thanks, as always, to OddsShark for hooking us up with odds. That's what they do. They're good at it. Odds, trends,
play to their strengths.
Lines. Go check out oddshark.com. Make sure you check out nesson.com/NFL for our picks on Thursday. That's it for us. Ricky, enjoy Nashville. And we will be back again at some point next week. Goodbye, everybody.